You
Yes.
can.
So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here to talk a little bit about RSA and all of the wonderful services that they are prepared to offer to our schools. And so turn it over to Alina, and she'll introduce herself and go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to be here to kind of share how working with RSA can benefit the students with disabilities at your school. I am a project manager with RSA, and my basic responsibilities are just to make sure programming is going smoothly for out in the field with all schools, and to kind of work with the special ed co-op in troubleshooting things. So that's my role. But let me move forward into the presentation. So we're going to be looking at how can working with RSA benefit the youth with disabilities at your school. And an outline of our presentation, what we're going to talk about today is what is vocational rehabilitation. Our essential question here is how does VR help helps transition students. We're going to briefly discuss the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act and what does this mean for in-school youth with disabilities, and then what does this mean with respect to the relationship of RSA working with schools. And the last topic area that we'll cover are pre-employment transition services. What are they, and then how can working with RSA improve outcomes for students via pre-employment transition services. All right, so just to kind of give you a little bit of basic knowledge of vocational rehabilitation. Vocational rehabilitation is a process that enables people with functional, psychological, developmental, cognitive, and emotional impairments or with health disabilities to overcome barriers to accessing, maintaining, or returning to employment in a competitive and integrated setting. Basically, our role here at RSA is to really remove barriers for persons with disabilities, whether it's adults or young persons. And we have we have the fortune of having a specific unit, our transition unit, dedicated to serving young people with disabilities through, using the tools of vocational rehabilitation that ensure that they are moving from high school into competitive and integrated employment once they get either their college degrees, vocational training certification, or if they just leave high school and want to go straight into the workforce. That is what our transition unit will support the young people at your school in doing.
Well, Lena, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to let folks on the webinar know that we'll be stopping throughout the presentation to take questions, but if you have a question, please feel free to use either the question box or the chat box. I'll be monitoring those. We like to keep everyone on mute just because it reduces the background noise. So, well, Lena, whenever you feel like it's a natural stopping point to ask for questions, please do that. And folks on the webinar, don't hesitate to just type your questions right in, and we'll make sure to answer them in a timely fashion. So thank you, and I'm going to put myself back on mute.
All right. So let me get into VR transition services. So what our unit looks like and how we do our services. So vocational rehabilitation transition services link students with disabilities while they're still in school with the vocational rehabilitation program. And we create a continuum of services that lead to long-term employment outcomes for eligible and potentially eligible students. Eligible students are, of course, students who go through our application process. Potentially eligible student is a student who is diagnosed with a disability, but they haven't gone through the application process as of yet. Despite whether they have an application process in with us or not, we can still service that student. So any student with a documented disability, whether it's a 504 plan or an IEP, is potentially eligible to receive VR services. And the way we deliver our VR services is that we work collaboratively with the special education cooperative as well as with public charter schools to ensure an uninterrupted plan of services for students within the secondary education environment until the kids reach their competitive employment goal in an integrated setting. At this time, I'm going to pause to see if anyone has any questions just with respect to anything about, like, what is an eligible student, what is a potentially eligible student, or how is it that we work with you and the co-op to make sure these kids are getting served. Okay, no questions. I'll move forward.
Actually, Helena, before you move forward, I actually have Rebecca Foster here with us, who's the co-op's secondary transition specialist, and maybe she can say a couple of words about how we partner with RSA.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Elena. So here at the co-op, my goal is to help facilitate the relationship between RSA and the schools. I serve as a liaison to make sure that the counselors are able to access the students and that the schools are able to access the counselors. Sometimes in navigating interagency collaboration, there are bumps and hiccups, especially when coordinating with 32 separate charter schools. And so my role is to assist the counselors in developing and implementing these PETs, as well as assist the schools in developing transition services that include the counselors to create a cohesive relationship in order to best support our students in their individual needs for their future.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So moving forward, I'm going to briefly discuss the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is actually the catalyst for the, I guess, the increased level of partnership between RSA and public schools. So on July 22nd, 2014, our President Barack Obama signed into law the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is actually designed to help job seekers access employment, education, and training, and support services to succeed in the labor market and to match employers with skilled workers they need to compete in the global economy. So that's just kind of a basic, overall the purpose, the guiding purpose of this particular act is just to get to support persons who are underemployed, get them trained and get them into a labor market, but also by providing the employer with eligible workers so that they can be, the companies can be more competitive in a global market. The specific components of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act as it relates to vocational rehabilitation and in-school youth are kind of outlined in three particular provisions. So the key provisions of this legislation that mandate that VR agencies have to be linked to school are, first of all, we have to set aside 15% of our annual budget to serve in-school youth with disabilities. This 15% is used to kind of get the kids trained, to provide any kind of resources that schools need or students need to be successful in getting the pre-employment transition services. And that leads me to the next bullet point. So we have to provide pre-employment transition services to eligible and potentially eligible students. And I will get into what that looks like in the slides coming. In addition, we have to work in collaboration with the LEA and to assist in the coordination of pre-employment transition services for all students with disabilities. And this last bullet point really kind of is where our relationship with the special ed co-op and RSA facilitate the implementation of the pre-employment transition services at the school level. Our pre-employment transition services, the 5 areas that were really kind of articulated in the legislation are career counseling and job exploration, work-based learning experiences, which may include in-school and after-school opportunities, or experiences outside of the traditional school setting, which could include internships that are provided in an integrated setting, counseling and guidance on opportunities for enrollment in post-secondary educational programs, workplace readiness training to develop social skills and independent living, and instruction and self-advocacy, which may include peer mentoring. I'm going to pause at this time to see if we have any questions from the audience. All right. If there are no questions, I'm going to continue. All right, so how can working with RSA improve outcomes for students? So schools are definitely in a unique position to utilize the services that RSA offers for youth with disabilities. We start with them at the age of 14. Typically, we're working with the high school levels, but if a school has, an eighth grade, a 14-year-old who's an eighth grader, we definitely will work with that young person. But you guys are in a unique position because you're utilizing our resources to service your kids and to provide additional services for your young people while they're in school. So VR services are available to high school students with disabilities to help them to transfer from school to higher education, work, and independent living. Our services range from paid internships, soft skills training, opportunities for kids to participate in boot camps or summer camps that focus on work readiness. We also assist young persons as they're transitioning from high school into college with getting the necessary supports they need in college, and we finance just a certain part of their college tuition. If a young person has a disability that's an impairment to their ability to live independently, we provide travel training and other community-based supports. Students who are engaged with RSA while in high school have a greater likelihood of completing college or post-secondary training program and becoming fully employed, just simply because we have at our disposal a plethora of supports that we can put in place to support the young person. And kind of the supports that we offer, kind of like the IEP, where IEP is individualized for each student. Our services are individualized for each student, so we're not doing a one-size-fits-all approach. We're really meeting the individual student where they are and putting supports in place that will get that individual person to a place where they are gainfully employed. Is there any question regarding this slide or the information that was presented here? Moving forward. All right, so some of our services and support. So we offer our services inside the school setting. So typically in the past, many years ago, if a parent wanted their child to receive RSA services, they would actually have to come down to our offices and then begin that process. But in recent years, we've really begun to work closely with the school system to offer the supports within the school setting, but of course we have to coordinate with the school staff because we don't work at the school, but we want to work with the school. So one of those things is that we make this convenient for you guys. We make it convenient for school staff, we make it convenient for the kids, and we do the intake and eligibility process right at the school. The intake and eligibility process basically is the application process. We collect the disability documentation right at the school, which would make a young person eligible to receive our services and all of the financial supports that come with that. Skill building. Students gain the skills and qualifications needed to enter the workforce by participating in our pre-employment transition skills workshops that are hosted right at the school site. We don't require the kids to go somewhere off-site to get these services or to participate in the PETS activities. And they receive soft skills training right at the school site. And the last part is collaboration. Our VR counselors will work with the special education staff members at each school to ensure that students are achieving their transition goals. RSA partners with local businesses, Department of Employment Services, and community-based agencies. And this allows us, allows the students the opportunities to engage in like paid work-based learning experiences, career sampling, internships. These are the things that we can offer to the students at your school without putting an extra burden on the special education staff members at the school. Is there any questions regarding services and supports? All right, moving forward. All right, so yes.
Sorry to interrupt. If folks kind of don't have questions now because they're just taking in all the information, if they have a question tomorrow, how should they proceed?
If you have
Welina, I think we lost you. Did you mute yourself by accident? We cannot hear you. While we are waiting for Welina to... Oh, there she is. You're kind of coming in and out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you were asked, what part did you... Well, basically what I was saying is they can follow up with Rebecca Foster at the DC Special Education Cooperative for any additional questions, or if there's questions kind of related more to how how we work as an agency, they can reach out to myself or Glenn Cassis, and Glenn and my information is on the next 2 slides now. So the way we're going to work together is we've assigned a team of 4 VR counselors who will be dedicated to serve and support all the charter schools in the District of Columbia. And in each counselor has a caseload of anywhere between 6 to 8 schools that they service. And then they have standing dates twice monthly that they arrange with the school staff that they'll be there on site all day to service the young persons, to do intakes, to process applications, to administer pre-employment transition service activities, to help the young people enroll or sign up for summer youth employment, internships, or whatever. They are there to service the kids on staff. The kids at the school, and then to assist the special education staff. And our 4 counselors would be Teresius McCall, Chanel Mitchell, Kristen Brochala, and Shantae Waldrop. This is their contact information, so as the counselors are coming around to introduce themselves to you, they will give you their contact information, and they'll have conversations with you regarding, what 2 days per month would be a good fit for your schedule at the school and for their schedule, kind of meeting in the middle, so that they're able to commit to being there all day during their 2 check-in days. As well as we can offer parent workshops right at the school. The VR counselors, that's part of their role, is to facilitate those parent workshops and to really help parents understand the VR process and how they can best support their child as they're becoming a client of RSA. And as I said before, we work really closely with the DC Special Education Cooperative to provide individualized technical assistance and supports to each charter school. So if there is a need for additional information, some clarity on some things that you do not understand, please reach out to Rebecca Foster. She is our liaison servicing all of the charter schools. And if she can't doesn't know, then she can definitely forward it on to myself or Glenn Cassis. But Rebecca Foster is really there to kind of support all charter schools. Is there any questions regarding how we're going to work together? All right. So with all of this, kind of put together like the services that we're going to deliver, the persons that we're going to have in place to support the partnership. RSA would really like to, our goal at the end of the day is to move towards a memorandum of agreement with all charter schools that we service, and it just kind of solidifies that we have a collaborative partnership, and it will ensure service delivery and outcomes. And what this MOA will do, will really just kind of bring processes to how we serve our students. It'll solidify timelines for the referral of students to RSA, which is critical because you don't want to refer a kid to RSA about a month before he's going to graduate from high school, because there's a lot of things that need to happen prior to that month before graduation from high school that our counselors will need to put in place so that the kid can continue to receive supports when they go to college or whatever post-secondary education plans they have. The MOA also establishes the standing dates for the coordination of PETS activities and services, so we're able to write out that information in the MOA. We clarifies the roles and responsibilities of each organization. What is the school's responsibility and what is RSA's responsibility in this partnership? And it's also an agreement to work together in planning for post-secondary transition services for students enrolled at your school. And that's what it is. We're basically kind of the transition plan part of the IEP. The MOA just kind of really guarantees that we will work collaboratively as, you know, two different agencies, really for the best interest of the student and ensuring their success and their success after high school, but more importantly that they are successfully employed in a field or a career that of their interest, and it's a competitive position. Did anybody have any questions about the MOAs? But myself, Willina Robson, and Rebecca Foster will be coming around to just meet with school personnel and administration to really kind of solidify MOAs and just talk about how we can get these, develop these and get them going before the school year starts, so that everybody's in agreement as to what is happening, what services are going to look like at your school for the upcoming 2016-2017 school year. All right. So I've been working with RSA for a very long time. I actually just started working at the agency, but prior to working with the agency, I was at a DC public school, and I had a lot of success. My students experienced a lot of success, and I had a lot of success working with RSA. And so I was recently in a meeting with an RSA counselor, Ms. Foster, Ms. Rebecca Foster, and myself. We met with Ms. Foster at Paul Public Charter School. And Ms. Foster kind of echoed the same kind of experience that I had when I was at the public school working with RSA. Mr. McCall was assigned to her school in December 2015, so it was kind of a short window of time that their relationship was being built from December 2015 until now. But she really couldn't say enough about the benefit of working with Mr. McCall and serving the students and really being connected with RSA. Some of the things that she said, RSA has been a very supportive partner in working with our transitioning youth this year. And she just kind of explained how Mr. McCall would come in and would really, those kids are going to college, really help them with just kind of creating a plan for themselves and kind of a checklist, as many of our students need, because they may have executive functioning deficits, but he really kind of helped the kids and the parents really work through all those transition youth, all the steps they needed so that they could, now they're all have received their letters for acceptance letters for college, they received their FAFSA reports, and now we're just putting all those things into place so the kids are supported. She's also indicated Mr. McCall built a strong relationship with the school where the staff and everybody knew him at the school, and all the students knew him. And the students have come to depend on seeing Mr. McCall at his twice monthly standing dates at Paul. They'll actually come around to her office and ask, is he, what time is he coming in, or is he coming in tomorrow, just because they really look forward to his visits. And on Mr. McCall's check-in days, he works with the students in groups as well as independently. So for kids who just need some one-on-one time with him, he's available for that, just sometimes because kids have a tendency to open up more when they're meeting individually versus a group. He even meets with parents during his check-in days with students. He'll encourage young people to bring their parent, to the school the next time, whenever he does his check-in, so he can check in with the parent and make sure that he's getting the documentation that he needs from the parents. And then her biggest thing was communication was key to the success of the partnership or the relationship with Mr. McCall and RSA. She said communication with Mr. McCall and RSA has been very good and consistent. She felt like there was never a time where she didn't know what to expect or what was going to happen next, because Mr. McCall was very good at communicating with her. And we're hoping that we can get more success stories at all of our charter schools that we want to reach out to serve, because this can be every school's experience with RSA. We are here to serve, and we are here to build strong relationships with all schools. At this time, I'm going to open up if there's any questions. Ronica Marable just walked in. She's our trainer from RSA, so if there are questions that are a little bit deeper that I cannot answer, she's here to assist with answering some of those questions. Are there any questions at this time?
We've got a quiet group today, not many questions, but I think that, your point about communication is key, and it's clear from this presentation and also from our experience working with you and your team, Walina, that RSA is very open to having schools communicate with you and your team, and so we encourage folks who are on this webinar or folks who will be listening to the recording later to please just reach out to RSA or to Rebecca Foster here at the co-op if you have any questions or concerns, because that's how we move things forward for kids. And as we're closing out, I just want to thank you again for taking time out of your morning to help us with this webinar, for sharing the information, and just say we are so excited for what's to come next year. I think next year is going to be a huge year for charter engagement, and we are just thrilled to be partnering with RSA.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with you guys, assisting schools in whatever way we can. On the slide here, you'll find RSA leadership contact information. So we have our 4 RSA counselors that will be assigned to all of the charter schools in the District of Columbia. There are issues that need to be resolved that sometimes that may not be able to be resolved at the counselor level, your schools are free to reach out to Damian Johnson or Glenn Cassis, who are transition supervisors. They manage the counselors directly, and they can assist with some of the things, or if a counselor's out on vacation, they are definitely available to assist with the continuation of processing kids. I'm the project manager, and my role really is to just ensure that PETS is happening at the school and that we are in compliance with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and that we're spending that 15% that we've been mandated to spend. And then Angel Bryant is our unit manager. She's our transition unit manager who oversees all of us, and she's the one who kind of signs the checks and makes things happen. So again, like Julie and Rebecca said, thank you all for attending this webinar today. For those who will be signing in on the recorded version of this and listening in, the same goes to you. Please do reach out to us if you have any further questions. We are here to answer. We're here to support. We really, really want to be just an integral part of how you run your day-to-day operations in special education and how you manage the transitioning of the youth while in school, as well as while they're on their way out of school, so that they can be successful with their employment outcomes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us.